Reverend Fathers, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, elected representatives, it's great to see you here tonight. I think, in my opinion, an award ceremony like this should have happened a long time ago. The town of Nenagh in North Tipperary has gone through some tough times over the last 9 or 10 years. We've all gone through a recession, but I think that the recession hopefully is over tonight, because Brophy went and got a hot towel shave about 5 o'clock, which cost €25. There's definitely something in that. Before I go any further, we'd just like to acknowledge the forthcoming general election, and we've got representatives from the various parties here tonight. And it's certainly not an area I want to go down, but I do feel it's important to mention the jobs announcements from Nenagh this week. 300 jobs, and it's filled with pride and delight to see a bit of employment and opportunity coming down this way for a long. It's been a long time. It's been too long. So well done to whoever is responsible. I suppose during times of recession, sport has a huge role to play. Because the news was bad, a lot of people were down and out or whatever, but we always had a match or a game of tennis or pitch and putt or golf. There was always something there to lift the spirits, and I think the Nenagh Guardian would have played a huge role in covering all sorts of sports over the last period of time. I know I would have given maybe 10-15 years haunting Pat Ryan and the lads for work, and while I was there it was strictly GAA, to be honest with you. There was other sports covered, but when I look at the paper now and I see motorsport, I see taekwondo, cycling, athletics, all the sports in North Tipperary are getting equal recognition, and it's absolutely fantastic to see. And I'd just like to mention a former departed friend here as well, who would have been responsible for setting up the Nenagh Guardian coverage the way it is, the late Jerry Stebbin. So I'm sure you're all as I say, my affinity with the Guardian goes back a long time. It's the reason I got into college in Galway to do my journalism degree. Now, that was a tough enough gig to get into. Only 18 people got in, and I think now is as good as the time as any to reveal that I cheated my way in. Simply because I was called for an interview, and on the basis that I'd worked for the Guardian. So I was sitting down in front of a panel anyway. They started asking me about all the questions and who was I working with, and then a question came, do you go to London often? And I said, not really, I don't go past Rossgrave, to be honest with you. And I got a phone call anyway the next day saying, we couldn't turn on a guy who works for the Guardian, but they were talking about the Guardian. I never quite put them right. And we also forget how important the local newspapers are, not just the people who live here, but people who live beyond North Tipperary, I suppose. And sometimes we forget how important the Nenagh Guardian is, and the people who work for it. For example, the Rio Olympics in 2016 were put off for a month, delayed for a month, because Bridget Delaney wasn't around to cover. She was too busy covering the Junior B Championship. Just obviously Brendan Cummins is coming up to have a chat with me in a second, but before we do, Donny Nealon, I suppose he's a CV second to none, as a player, referee, administrator, coach. And one of the stories that Donny won't tell you tonight was he was working in Dublin many years ago, and he was playing for Tipperary at the time, and he's sitting down beside Tom trying to keep the head down, but Donny was late for training one night. And I suppose back in those days, mobile phones weren't readily accessible, and even landlines weren't readily accessible. So he was caught somewhere in Inchicore or the Grand Canal, and he wanted to ring the management to tell them that he'd be late and apologise. So it took him ages to find the phone, but eventually he saw a phone box and he said, I'll go in here and make the call. So he went in anyway, and he was there for about 5 minutes. He couldn't really get it dialed to him, kept hammering the numbers out. He could see people around him were laughing, and he wasn't too pleased about it, but he got out anyway, took stock of where he was, and it turned out he was on a film set, a movie set. Ed O'Brien's The Country Girl, so it took only 5 minutes to figure out what finally, before we move on to Brendan, great credit due to Shane Brophy and Sinead O'Brien and all the team for organising a night like this. Hopefully it'll be the first of many. Delighted now to introduce, I suppose, a guy who's not too long out of the inter-county game, but a guy who, to me, embodied everything that was good about top-level sport and GEA. Not just because of how good he was and how fearless and dependable he was in the Tipperary goalmouth, but I think anybody who's met him would just say he's an absolute gentleman. He's time for everybody, he's a word to chat with everybody, and he's a really, really great example. And on top of that, of course, what a collection of medals. 2 All-Ireland titles, possibly could have been 2 more, but it's great to get to. 5 Munster championships, 5 All-Stars, which is incredible. 9 Puck Fada championships, a record. I think he's a record championship appearance holder for Tipperary as well. 73 championship appearances. He played football as well, 16 times in championship for Tipperary. And maybe, in my opinion, could have given maybe another year or 2, but he went off with his club only last summer and scored 19 points in a game, outfield. So it's my great pleasure to welcome our special guest tonight, Brendan Cummins. Brendan, you're very welcome. You can sit down there and make yourself feel at home.
Thanks, Damian. This is Joe for you and stand up, by the way. Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen?
I don't think so. How are things since you retired, Brendan? Because a lot of people maybe wouldn't have seen much of you since you made a decision to walk away. Was it? I know you've got 2 young kids now. Was it a huge thing for you to leave after nearly 2 decades?
Yeah, it obviously was, because at that level of inter-county hurling, it's your life, But I think with age, I realised that people were moving their lives to allow me to play. My mother-in-law, I'd meet the Nissan Micra coming up when you had put the kids to bed, something I'd never seen before, but suddenly I started to notice that she was around the house more often. I'd see her going back from training when I was coming back from training. So there comes a time, I think, in every player where you always leave a year too early. I've been on panels in the past where players have stayed too long. They stunted growth of other players, and it actually worked out great, because when I did leave, everyone said, "Oh my God, you're gone," and Darren was back in the goals, and what are we going to do now? Darren then gets an All-Star, Tip gets an All-Ireland final, nearly win it. So it just goes to show, and we have that transition now as well, obviously in Tipperary hurling, where there's a few lads gone, but it just like this opportunity to others, and I didn't want to be one of those lads who was getting in the way and stopping a lad from getting on.
How would you summarise your 2 decades almost in the Tipperary shirt? Because so many highs and so many lows. What sticks out for you?
I suppose what sticks out really is that you have that bit of heartache. I've been in the dressing room so long, I felt like a man out of the Highlander, that all my friends were dying off and I was still there, and other guys would come in and they sheepishly sit beside me and wonder what this fella's going about. But I got to play with so many great players. I remember Declan Ryan giving me a medal, and next thing I'm playing with him, winning Munster championships and All-Irelands, and then he's my manager, Nicky English, the same way. So I think the pride is always there in wearing the jersey. We didn't win as much, I suppose, as we'd have liked to, and that's just the way sport is. But I suppose I would have gotten huge values out of the game as well, I have to say, and that's something I brought into my family life, my work life and all that, and something I think that it's great for all our young players that they are actually getting. You do win, and you probably lose more than you win, but the values that the game gives you is huge. It's something for life.
I was interviewing Larry Corbett during the week, and he just said he didn't feel that he won enough either. Is that something that maybe sticks in your craw a bit, and why didn't we win enough?
Well, yeah, it's you always hope you can win more, and there's no doubt about that. But you just win what you win. We were in hard luck in a lot of ways that the Limerick team came along in '96, and then Clare all of a sudden were running up a hill in Cracklow, 8 teams for, when you came out and played Clare in the championship match, you just wondered, was there a ball involved at all for a lot of what was going on. From the parade on, when they were shouting the abuse at you across the way, you knew you were in for a different kind of a game. And then Cork, and then of course Kilkenny. So you'd win as much as you can. The reason we didn't win, I suppose, I've gone through 10 managers. Continuity is always a word. Few managers have high regard for others, and maybe not so much along the line. But we've had a lot of transition into expectations are very high. And I think what really struck me, I met Dave Fitzgerald a number of years ago, and after he won the All-Ireland, I said, "How'd you get those young fellas to get going and book tradition?" He said, "Brendan," in his squeaky voice, he said, "You've only 4 All-Irelands won the last 40 years. And it gave me a stark reality, I think, and I think that's the challenge for us now. We win an All-Ireland like we did in 2001, 2010, and then we talk about it for the next 8 years. And that influences players on the street then, whereas in Kilkenny, we win an All-Ireland, you're All-Ireland champions for 3 months, and every conversation is, do you think you'll hold your place for next year, or what's going to happen next? So it's a mindset.
There's a huge difference. Would it be fair to say, or am I putting words in your mouth, that maybe those games with Clare, back around the late 90s, maybe early 90s, were they the games that stood out for you in terms of atmosphere, rivalry, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, they were just the best. I mean, the only time I've had that atmosphere really in All-Ireland finals take on a life of their own and all that was blowing my last championship game actually in Nolan Park. The crowd in Baughey Keeve obviously is right in on top of you. You go out knowing you play clear. The guards are in the tunnel just in case both teams don't have to go at the same time. It was just...
They were there just for Davy.
They were there just for Davy. I actually did an interview in Killaloo just on the bridge and before the 97 All-Ireland final. And there was guys actually trying to knock Davy down. They were coming back into Tip and doing the same thing to me, and there was a back door in the background slagging the Tipperary people for the way we got into the final as well. But it was just white heat down there. And going around in the parade, like I said, they'd be chirping across at you. Loughnane was on the sideline, you know, we had Nicky as being our god, we'll say, like, you know, and we wanted to win for him, and we wanted also to win to make sure that Ger Loughnane would be gone, and thankfully after a couple of beatings he left.
I see your wife Pam is here. As you know, as a couple, how did you deal with the pressure of being the Tipperary goalkeeper for 17 or 18 years, and I suppose specifically in the lead up to the games, the 3 or 4 days before you play? Because you're the sort of a guy everybody wants to have a chat to and maybe pull a drag out of you for tickets and stuff. How did you cope and how did Pam cope?
I'm going to say how I coped to get Pam up here, maybe no, I'll tell you how she coped. She actually coped better, I think, before the match, because after the matches we lost. I wasn't the greatest person in the world to be hanging around with, but I had a routine. I always felt that when the lights went up at 3:30, I needed to have certain things done in the 4 or 5 days before it. So I go down to down to Wexford, the White's Hotel. Pam actually used to come with me during the summer. She's secondary school teaching, so at the time off. And went to the cryo chamber there at minus 110. Not only the underpants and a pair of runners swimming along, but testing your resolve, I'll tell you. But it was all part, I suppose, of building me up so that when Sunday came, I knew I was ready. And that's why I mentioned earlier about you need a support structure as a player. You need a backroom team that's strong. And I couldn't only have played to the level I played without that structure, and obviously Pam was a key part of that.
When it all stopped, the first year must have been tough. I remember you talking about buying tickets for the game and going to the game with Paul and looking out from there.
Yeah, buying tickets for the game was an interesting experience for me and the person who was selling me the tickets. Especially when I walked into a spar shop to buy tickets for the first league game Tip played, only for the girl to tell me, "You're supposed to go to Super Value, Brendan, you're in the wrong shop." So then I went into Super Value and I met a girl and she said, "What are you doing here?" She said, "You surely get tickets and all." I said, "No, this is the GA." Like I said, give me, how much are they? Just give me 2 of them or whatever you do. So it's weird. And I met friends of mine. I met Eamon Buckley, who had been a key part with us in the setup outside the stadium. You know, all these kind of things are completely new, but they're great too. I went down to Ballybacon the Tuesday night after we lost the championship match to Kilkenny, and I knew it was gone at that stage, but nobody else obviously did. I was waiting till the end of the year, and I went down all hope that I was going to change Ballybacon hurling in this one night. So they said, "Look, Brendan, you go to the under 6s." So I said, "Okay, that's fine." I had the cones, I had the whistle, I had a whole lot going on, Damian. It's just brilliant. So I put them into their lines. I said lean them because that's what said to me when I was younger, and this was all going great. And next thing, the whole drill stopped. And there was a guy at the back, and he had the nose of the hurley, and everyone then was suddenly down on the ground. What happened was that young Johnny English had found a worm. So the whole thing had to stop until everyone else found the worm, and then we continued on hurling. So that was my education at underage.
You question your coaching career straight away.
Yeah, I did, absolutely, yeah, you know, but that's it. And I mean, it's trying to provide enjoyment now for the kids is the thing for me now, and use my experience. I'm working with Laois now for the last 2 years, and this year I've gone in as part of their backroom team and the management side of it, and it's a good experience.
You'll be seen as a future Tipperary manager, but it's easy to say that, and it's easy to spout that out. But you've got to go and make that happen, don't you? Be it abroad or back at home.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I didn't want to get, I suppose, institutionalised in another way, just looking at Tipperary hurling and the way it is. And Eamon O'Shea asked me when I left, will he come back in on the panel for a while just to help in the background. I said no, because I needed to get an education and see what other teams were doing. And I'm getting that above with Cheddar Plunkett, and it's been great, you know. And it also shows me a way that Laois, I suppose, are not going to win in All-Ireland, right? But at the same time, their systems and processes are set up the same as Kilkenny or Tipperary, and it's fantastic to watch these guys working, because as a unit there isn't a Lara Corbett or a Shamie Callan or these kind of players who are going to score 3-9 to take out the whole. It's the sum of the parts, and that's what I'm learning really above in Laois, and it's a great education.
You kept yourself busy with media. You wrote your autobiography last year as well, so you're still at the coalface of it, really.
I am, yeah. I suppose I had decided when I was gone, I'd always had an okay enough relationship with the media along the line. With the Guardian, I was a columnist with him and appreciate that to get the opportunity to put my points across, I suppose, to Tipperary from that, to get that outlet for it. And yeah, it has been. It's been exciting. Dealing with Don Logue's fashion of a Sunday night has also been exciting. You don't know what he's going to come out of the water with. You don't know what he's going to say next. But thankfully he's gone on to Clare now, so he's safe enough this year.
And finally, final question. New manager in now at the helm. Some players out the door. Maybe a good stack in. What way do you see things going? Will the system or style be differently? And can Tipperary bridge the gap of 6 to 7 years now?
I think it'll probably take maybe mid 12 months to get settled in. If you look at the pattern of managers we've had where we've had great success, Nicky English took 3 years to put his stamp on it, Liam Sheedy the same way. I think as supporters we're going to have to be patient. We're going to go to National League games, players are going to make mistakes, we might, get beaten by 5 or 6 points in the odd game, but I think we have to be ready for the Munster Championship. It's going to be a long road even to win Munster. I think we do have to get through the front door and the back door with the likes of maybe, I think Dublin will end up in that again, and they never know, they could catch you in Portlaoise some evening. But I think Mick is a really passionate man, and I'm delighted he's getting the opportunity he is. He's got a strong enough backroom team there with obviously Declan Fanning doing the training. But it's all new and it's all exciting, and I mean, I suppose as the hurlers on the ditch now, we can only hope that things will work out fine for us. But judge on the characters that are in there. You see, like when I left, obviously Darren stepped up to the plate. Owen Kelly left, Shemi Cannon stepped up to the plate. I don't think there's any doubt that the talent is there, and I think Mick will dig it out, and hopefully I'll have a successful summer.
Well, Brendan, it was a pleasure to watch you in action in the Tipperary goal run for 2 decades. We're all very proud of what you achieved. You're Mr. Reliable and Dependable. Ladies and gentlemen, our special guest tonight, Brendan Cummins.